For quite a while I've been complaining about mature-rated games. Not that I'm in any way an advocate of censorship. What concerns me instead is the story. When a game crosses the line from T to M, they tend to include ridiculous violence and F-bombs galore, with a sprinkling of boobs for good measure. Unfortunately, they rarely include a deep and mature storyline, and that always feels like a missed opportunity. But this time, Atlus has decided to get a little experimental and given us something different with Catherine. It's a game that revolves around an interesting and unique storyline. There's no saving the world, no aliens to fight, and no princess to save. Instead, you're just a normal guy, faced with a moral dilemma, which is after a night of drinking with friends, Vincent Brooks wakes up with Catherine, a woman with the same name as his longtime girlfriend, which is Catherine with a K. And it's because he's a normal guy that the violence, sex, and abundant F-words don't seem gratuitous. We can even relate to him in a way. Visually, the game just oozes style. From the opening credits to the character close-ups, it has a very deliberate look and feel. And even though the graphics aren't on the cutting edge of gaming, they do look perfect the way they are. The character designs work well too, even when Vincent is running around in just his boxers and clutching a pillow, which he does for a good half of the game. The backgrounds are simple but interesting, although for the most part they don't stand out. One of the most unique aspects of the game is that it's not your standard RPG. Instead, it alternates between getting to know your fellow patrons in the Stray Sheep Bar, and The Nightmare, which is a full-on puzzle game. The Nightmare is exactly that, a nightmare. You're forced to climb a seemingly infinite tower of boxes, making use of a variety of different techniques that you pick up along the way. Each night takes you to a new section, complete with its own obstacles and traps. Some areas have blocks that impale you with spikes, and others have ones made of ice that can cause you to slip and fall to your death.
No way!
And when I say fall to your death, I mean it. One wrong move on the wall, and you'll fall straight to a game over. Fortunately, you can collect magic pillows for extra retries. However, the most horrifying part of the Nightmare are the boss fights, which are a little less fight and a little more run for your damn life. And the boss character designs are, for the most part, terrifying. First you face one that wants to stab you with a fork, and later you're stalked up the tower by a giant baby screaming daddy as it closes in on you from below. And you will be terrified, not just because of the boss designs, but because the game is hard. However, it does have an easy mode, as well as a very easy mode that is unlockable by holding down the back button on the Xbox or the select button on the PS3 within the menu, just in case you want to enjoy the story without a lot of effort, and I will admit that I am playing it on very easy to get this footage. During your time spent at the bar, you can help people with their problems, text your lady friends, and play an arcade game called Rapunzel, which is similar to the box towers you climb in The Nightmare. And of course, you can have a drink. In fact, getting drunk is more of a requirement since it increases the speed at which Vincent moves in The Nightmare. On a side note, he is a bit of a lightweight considering his limit is 3 drinks. One of the most interesting features of the game are the choices that you make in everyday situations, as well as the Nightmare's confessional booth, which you visit between puzzle levels, each one having an impact on Vincent's mood, and they ultimately decide which of his lovers he belongs with. The confessional questions are especially cool because they show you the results of everyone's answers along with yours, some of which will really surprise you. And it helps that many of the answer choices are kind of funny. Sense of humor is really one of the game's strong points. It's one of the only games that has had me laughing out loud at full volume. Some of the best scenes being where Vincent finds himself struggling not to get caught. His best escape involves faking a stomachache and running to the bathroom.
My stomach hurts really bad, so I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Vincent, you've been acting weird today.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine, really. Bathroom, gotta go right now.
Troy Baker, who voices the character in the English version, delivers his lines perfectly and brings a lot to the game. Catherine does have a few problems that make the game less enjoyable. The load times are brutal, and with no status indicator you sometimes feel like you might be having a problem with your system. The puzzle sections are fun, but in some of the longer ones, towards the end it gets a little bit tedious. It does have multiple endings that give it a good amount of replay value, but I would have liked to see a greater difference between endings. For example, having the last day contain completely different events instead of just a few minutes after the final boss. In the end, after beating the game 3 times and seeing one of the most hilarious endings ever in a game, I forgot about the few negative aspects of the game. Catherine achieved something that all mature rated games should be striving for, a good story that earns its M with integrity. and I hope it finds its audience, particularly an audience with enough courage to purchase a game with such risque cover art. So, I give Catherine a 9 out of 10. So Atlas, how about you get going on Persona 5?